Hi, book fans. So, another review for you. And this one is Fathers and Sons by Ivan Turgenev. First of all, I've heard a lot of people pronounce his name wrong. I'm not Russian. I do live in Russia, well, here in Moscow. So I really do hope that I'm pronouncing it right. And if there's any Russian people listening, please comment on my pronunciation. Ivan Turgenev. Turgenev. There is a metro station in Moscow called Turgenevskaya, so obviously named after Turgenev. So, first of all, should you read this book? I'm an 80%. That's a great book. That's, regarding Russian writers, the best Russian writer I've read so far. I've read Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment. I wonder if it was a bad translation. It was a Constance Garnett translation. It was a really terrible one. I just hated it. I mean, I'm pretty sure the actual plot was boring. The death happened right at the start, and then the rest of it was just the guy thinking about it and analysing what he'd done, and I found that really boring. Also read Master and Margarita. A lot of that just went way over my head. There's so many religious themes in it. Pontius Pilate. I didn't get it. So I couldn't enjoy that. What else have I read? The Russians. Nothing springs to mind now. Tolstoy, Anna Karenina. Oh man, what a drag. 1,000 pages. Oh. No, don't. Anna Karenina is supposed to be one of the greatest books in the world. Boring as hell. I didn't like it. The best part was the end. And genuinely the best part was the end. There was a part about Levin. Anyway, we're talking about Fathers and Sons, so yeah, I rate this book the best piece of Russian literature I've read so far. Also Lolita, which I've read, but to be honest, the narrator was showing off too much with his language, trying to use words which were long and eloquent and elegant, but very literary, and that's why it was almost painful to read. So Turgenev, it's very crisp. He's to the point. He writes. I'm a fan of Bukowski, as other people who are following this channel will know. But the reason I like Bukowski is because you can read him, and it's a fantastic story. And so Turgenev is a long way from Bukowski, a long way, obviously. But the way that he lays down a sentence, it's clear, it's straightforward, and it's understandable. And so he writes, I think, with clarity and eloquence. And so and another thing is, I've got a bookmark here because I wanted to share with you his descriptions, how he describes. Another book review said he is fantastic at describing nature. I wholeheartedly agree. So it was a lovely fresh morning. Tiny flecked clouds hovered overhead in little curls of foam on the pale clear blue. A fine dew lay in drops on the leaves and grass, and sparkled like silver on the spiders' webs. The damp, dark earth seemed still to keep traces of the rosy dawn. From the whole sky the songs of larks came pouring in showers. Bazarov walked as far as the copse, sat down in the shade at its edge, and only then disclosed to Pyotr the nature of the service he expected of him. Not sure if I've pronounced those names right anyway. Pyotr. It's a rolled R in Russian, so it's like Bazarov, Pyotr. But even then my British accent cannot really eloquently find its way around the rolled R sound. So you can see that that's just one example out of the book of his descriptions of nature, and there's a lot of places where I'm following a storyline, and then it's like we have this just beautifully expressed description of nature, and it's wonderful, and it gives a break from the actions and the dialogue happening in a book, and then really paints that scene in your mind, and as well as painting that scene in your mind, makes you understand just how great a writer Turgenev really is. So that's just one thing. And then another thing about Turgenev is that the wisdom of this man. Obviously he was, I don't know how old he was when he wrote this, but you can tell he was an old and wise man when he wrote this book, because there's beautiful descriptions of, people would say that at its core it's a story about nihilism, but we have a set of different characters and two young guys, and we follow them as they fall in love with two other female characters, and the point of view that Turgenev places, the frame that he places these love stories within, is different, and it gives us a different perspective on two relationships as they evolve, even 3 or 4 relationships as they evolve. I'm even thinking of another one now, which is another. So there's 3 minimum that are focal to the story, and all of them are different love stories. And Turgenev writes, again, like I say, with clarity and perspective on those. So giving a different view of love and explaining it from different angles. And it's just very beautiful to hear those descriptions. And also, if you're older and grown up and you've been through love stories yourself, you're genuinely able to go, oh my God, yeah, I was like that when I was young, or I'm like that now, or oh my God, I'm going to be like that when I'm older. So Turgenev puts that love in perspective from different ages, and it's wonderful to see that happen in this book. And so you can begin to grasp what love is like when you're young. Oh my God, yeah, I relate to that. And what love is like when you're middle-aged. Oh my God, I relate to that. And what love is like when you're older. Oh my God, that's what it's going to be like when I'm older. So it's wonderful that as an author, he's writing this book and he's able to look back on love as it has evolved through his life. And that's wonderful to see, and it's beautifully depicted. Beautifully depicted. So I think about the nihilism in this book as well, is that the main character, Bazarov, is a nihilist, and so he believes in absolutely nothing apart from himself, because he's got a lot of arrogance, but it would appear that he has an extreme amount of self-confidence. However, he does say, I believe in nothing, which would imply that he doesn't even believe in himself. I don't want to spoil the end, so actually stop now if you want to read it, and I recommend you do, because I just think that you're gonna see and how things can be done as a writer, and you're going to see how wonderful Turgenev is as a writer, the wisdom and the skill that he has in telling a story through words. It's wonderful. It's a really good story. It's going to make you think. It's going to make you examine love and nihilism and gather your thoughts on those things. So I recommend it. Now, spoilers. Bazarov dies at the end. And so some people have said that, well, this was Turgenev's way of glorifying and promoting this character of the nihilist. I don't think that's right. I think that really this is a caricature of the nihilist character. I think that really it's Turgenev picking up, satirizing. I think it's a satirical comment on the nihilist character. And you see that because even though the main character is a nihilist, he's challenged all the way through on these nihilistic ideas. And at the start, he seems like an arrogant jerk. And I didn't like him at the start. And later on during the book, I'm going, oh, maybe he has some points. I'm not sure really where Turgenev is going with this. Is he promoting this style of character, or is he tearing it apart? I believe at the end that he is tearing the character apart, because we see Bazarov change throughout the book, how he starts with these nihilistic attitudes. The older generation don't like him, but the older generation say, well, yeah, we have to swallow our bitter pill and just let it be. So nihilism, his attitude continues. We see as he falls in love, he kind of changes his mind. He says that love is just imaginary, but then he falls in love and declares his love to Madame Adintsov. That's hard to pronounce. So is what he believes in and his actions don't align. So we see that he's a man of thought, really, is Bazarov. But as far as his thought goes out actually into the world, he's only a man of thought. He doesn't really know how to act in the real world. He's just a man of a lot of arrogance. It's interesting to see that evolve, and despite this, he doesn't change his ways. He still sticks to his nihilism, but we see that the character Arkady started at the beginning of the book with great respect to Bazarov, following all of these attitudes. But by the end of it, Arkady realizes he's more empathetic, and he doesn't hold the same attitudes as Bazarov, and he never will, because he's, in the book, more soft-hearted and not as stubborn as Bazarov seems to be. So we see that actually, and even Madame Adintsov was never in love with Bazarov in the first place, because when he's dying, she says, I would have felt more if I had been in love. She feels like a pang of resentment, but she doesn't feel anything like, oh my God, tragedy. And then she realized she was never in love with him. So actually he's quite a despicable character, a man purely of the mind who just believes in nothing. And so he loses all of the relationships throughout the book, goes back to his parents at the end, and finally dies. And I believe, from the way that I would personally choose to interpret this book, is that there is a man who believes in absolutely nothing. He believes just in meaningless nihilism. It's all just a pile of nothingness, dirt. S-H-I-T. And so he becomes that at the end. There's a man that believes in nothing, and very towards the end of the book, he becomes nothing. And I believe that then there's these marriages that happen, and Arkady finds out that he's actually in love with Katya, and they marry. As well, the Nikolai Petrovich marries Fenishka. So it's actually a promotion of love. This is how I interpret the book. A promotion of love in the face of this philosophy of just nothingness. And I was like, when I was younger, I genuinely was like, oh, it's all imaginary and it's all just, it's meaningless and nothing. And then as I matured, I kind of understood that, there is this love energy that is great and it pervades everything. And so I'm going to choose to interpret this book in that way, because I think that's how Turgenev would have genuinely meant it. Because at the end, I want to read you the very end of the book. assuming you've already read it, just to go over it again. Can it be that their prayers, their tears are fruitless? So this is when the parents of Bazarov are kneeling at his grave, and they're the only ones there. And remember at the start that it said he was going to be famous, and then he died. So can it be that love, sacred, devoted love, is not all powerful? Oh no. However passionate, sinning, and rebellious, the heart hidden in the tomb, the flowers growing over it, peep serenely at us with their innocent eyes. They tell us not of eternal peace alone, of that great peace of indifferent nature. They tell us too of eternal reconciliation and of life without end. And it's a beautiful ending. The flowers growing over the tomb tell us of eternal reconciliation and of life without end. And I think that Turgenev is that for me says it all about the book, is that it was a satirism of this attitude of nothingness. That actually, life goes on, and it is eternal, and there is this eternal peace, and there is this eternal love, and it is a very sacred thing. And there may be people who are nihilists and declare that there is nothing in this world and it's all meaningless. But there is a love and there is a peace, and it is eternal. And that is what I believe in. I genuinely think that is what Turgenev has tried to imply in this book too. And I might be wrong, because we all perceive things very, very, very differently, and I might have just run it through a very loving filter. But I hope that I'm right. And so, if you want to leave some comments below and tell me what you thought of the book and how you interpreted it, then let's have that discussion, because I'm ready to discuss. So, I hope to hear from you, and peace.